Sean G, we locked in. We locked in. I know y'all say he always mess with his phone when he come on there. Let me start this video off like this. I gotta qualify and I have to put up a disclaimer so that y'all don't get the wrong impression of me. As a kid growing up in Clifton, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, the New York City metropolitan area, I watched my father beat my mother up. Give her black eyes, bust her head up, there'd be blood on the floor. Hit her upside the head with shoes and beat her up, break furniture. She would have to wear shades when she took me to school or when we went out in public after he would beat her up. And this went on. This was frequent. This wasn't every once in a while. This was pretty frequent. And it traumatized me and it bothered me, and I had stuttering problems from the fear and the trauma of dealing with that. I grew up insecure in myself, full of fear. I grew up with shame and embarrassment because my mother was ashamed and embarrassed of what she was allowing to be done to her in her life. And obviously, if she's my number one caregiver, she's passing that vibration and energy on to me. And I ingested it or was impacted by it, whatever the word I'm looking for. You know I have a tremendous vocabulary. I got a good vocabulary. I got an amazing vocabulary. I'm very smart. That's why women like me and they want to give me some. Women they love me. They love me. And I grew up with low self-esteem as a result. There's a whole host of issues that I grew up as a result of the domestic violence that I had lived in the 1970s. And I used to be the one to call the cops. I would sneak, I would pick up the phone, they'd be fighting. I pick up the phone call and say, can you come to 77 Lake Avenue? And they would show up and nobody knew why they came, how they came, who called them. And all the cops would do in 1975, 1974, 1976 would just tell the man to leave the house. There was no arrest. There was no nothing. It was a different time. The incident at the Intercontinental Hotel with Puff and Cassie stole Puffy's phone. And that's why he whooped her ass. Tenny Garagos went over this in great detail. When the Southern District of New York put a government witness on the stand, he was some kind of like media editor or something like that. And what he did was he's edited together, he spliced together and pieced together camera views of Puffy running down the hallway, the camera that was showing right in front of the elevator, the camera that was showing, there might have been like 4 different camera angles. And what this guy did, who worked for the Southern District of New York, or who was contracted by the Southern District of New York, was he put all of this together. And I think his video ended up being like a 15-minute video. And Tenny Garagos cross-examined this guy. And I think the actual video is 6 minutes long, 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I could be wrong. And what the mainstream media what they did to soil Puffy's image and to assassinate his character and to make him lose favor in the public eye and to rally the whole world against this monster. This monster. Monster with baby oil. Is they showed a 13-second clip, which is where he whoops her ass, he assaults her. But what they don't tell you, and what came out at the trial, if you want to know who I am, I was at the trial every day, except maybe 4 or 5 days. I saw all of the testimony. And being at the trial is different from reading the transcript, because in the transcript, all you see listed in the transcript, it says Exhibit 67, Exhibit 31, Exhibit 19. But when you're in the trial, in your courtroom, you see, when they post an exhibit, you see the exhibit. And Tenny Garagos, she went over this in great detail, and it changed my whole perspective of that incident in front of the elevator. When Puffy comes running down the hallway with his towel on, the way the Southern District of New York framed it and the way the mainstream media framed it, the mainstream media in the Southern District of New York were working in tandem as a team to destroy Puffy's image in the public and then convict him in the courtroom. That's what they wanted. I thwarted me by myself. I thwarted that plan because I was the one YouTuber that was telling the truth about the actual cross-examination of the government witnesses in the courtroom. The mainstream media and other YouTubers who were too scared to tell the truth or just hated Puff would only report the direct examination, which is when the Southern District of New York, after they prepped their witness, met with them. They met with Mia 31 times. They met with Dawn Richard 8 times. They met with the expert witness, Dr. Hughes, 8 times. They met with Jane Doe 20-something times. You know, Capricorn Clark 9 times. You know, to prepare these witnesses to testify on the stand. That's all they would focus on. But what really happened is, and the way they framed it was that there was a freak off going on and that Puffy was running down the hallway, that Cassie was trying to escape the freak off. I don't want to freak off. I don't want to freak off. Cassie, which is a lie, because she set them up and she told Puff, I always want to freak off with you. I'm always down for a freak off. I'm running away. And they show Puffy running down the hallway, boom, assaulting her, kicking her, and then dragging her as if to imply he's dragging her back to the room to force her to do a freak off. That Jules Theodore is waiting in that room. But what came out at the trial was that it was never proven that there was anybody in the room at the Intercontinental Hotel at that time. The government never showed or proved 1,000% through, if Jules Theodore was in that room, then the government could have got video footage of him getting off the elevator or walking down that hallway to the room or walking out of the room. No video evidence, no footage of Jules Theodore ever being in that hotel was ever shown in the courtroom. It was only expressly, verbally implied by the prosecution who lost that trial. But what Tenny Garagos did, Tenny showed and said this video was actually 6 minutes long. You got Puffy running down the hallway, grabbing her, throwing her on the ground, assaulting her. And hold on. Hold up. Stay right there, don't hang up. Hold up. Hello? Spam call. Spam call. Puffy comes down the hallway. He assaults her. Then he picks up this vase. He throws it at her. And then there was a chair in the area by the elevator. He sits down in the chair and he starts to talk to Cassie. We don't know what she's saying, but we can see this in the courtroom on the camera. She picks up the hallway phone. She's calling security because she's afraid. He just whooped her ass. She's scared. So then the security guard comes up. This is the dude. He was called to testify. The security guard that was at that incident, he's since become a Los Angeles cop. He was called to testify. At that time, he wasn't a cop. At that time, he was just a regular security guy. And all three of them begin to talk. And they're sitting there, they're talking. And Tenny Garagos shows that after he sits down in the chair and is talking to Cassie, he gets up, Puffy gets up, and he walks back toward the hallway like he's going back to the room, and he has a phone in his hand that he did not have. When you see him running down the hallway, he's running like this and he's holding his towel, right? He could have been in the shower. He could have been just laying there with her butt naked or whatever the case may be, and then she grabbed his phone and dipped or whatever. But like I say, him holding the towel feeds into the narrative that a freak off was going on. That was never proven. And that he was trying to enslave her, to force her to do a freak off that she didn't want to do, which was also a lie. She always wanted to do them. She said that. And there was no force and no coercion. Clayton Howard testified to that. All of the male escorts that she got with that testified and that are now doing interviews on YouTube all say that she was never forced, that she was with it. So as he's walking by, Tenny shows it, and Tenny is slow. Tenny's doing this in slow motion. She's stopping it frame by frame, and you can see Puffy holding a phone that he did not have when he's running down the hallway. And Tenny says, "You see the phone? Who was she cross-examining?" She might have been that same government guy. But what Tenny was showing was that she stole his phone, and that's what pissed him off. Right? Now, let me go into this. I don't hit women, right? Because like I told you, my story. I remember I said, man, when I grow up, I said this about my father. I said, I'm gonna fuck this nigga up, man. I'm gonna whoop this nigga's ass. And when I got to be the age of 22, I confronted him on Sherman Street in Passaic, New Jersey. And I asked him, I said, yo, man, I said, why did you used to beat up my mother, man? And he looked at me and he said, man, he said, Sean, I was young and dumb. I was young and dumb. And I accepted that. And there was no physical altercation between him and I. But this is what I want to say. Cassie and Puffy, the evidence that came out at the trial, had a history of doing this to each other. She would haul off, bow, hit that nigga in his mouth, bang, boom, and they would fight. She would start some fights. Sometimes he would start some fight. This is what they did. Now, they also, throughout the trial, Cassie was jealous of all the women Puffy had. And she was constantly going through his phone, looking at messages and the like, and they would get into it. And Puffy would do the same thing. He would go through her phone and see. One time, Cassie testified on the stand, I think they were in LA, or they might have been in Connecticut by her mother's house. But the story went like this. Cassie testified that her and Puffy was driving, or maybe one of the security guards were driving them, and Puffy looked over. He was, you know how as a dude, you know you can feel like your lady messing around on you? So I guess he had that feeling. So he told Cassie, yo, call your mother and let's go to eat or something, he told her. So Cassie picked up her phone and put her passcode in to open the phone. Puffy didn't know the passcode. Cassie put the passcode in, called her mother, put the phone like this, and Puffy grabbed the phone out her hand, jumped out the car, and ran and stayed gone 3 hours. He went through her phone. He called some nigga in the NFL Cassie was fucking. He went through her whole phone, text messages, everything. Cassie had relationships with Kid Cudi for over a year. This NFL dude, Michael B. Jordan. She had a relationship with Brianna Boglin, a lesbian relationship with Brianna Boglin. Who else was she? She stayed in touch with Jules Theodore. She testified on the stand that Jules Theodore and her had a special friendship and that she would see him from time to time without Puff. Right? These male escorts, some of them she took a liking to, and she would contact them, text them, call them when Puff wasn't around or whatever. Clayton Howard was one. Jules Theodore was one. All this came out at the trial, and this bothered Puff. Puffy was jealous, and she would steal his phone and go through his phone. And she was jealous of Gina. She was jealous of Kim Porter. And Cassie testified on the stand that Puffy had like 9 or 10 girlfriends. So that's the Intercontinental Hotel video incident. Continue along with that story. After Cassie leaves and goes back, she goes to her crib. She goes to her apartment or her friend's apartment, her crib. Her friend is there, and the police come over to her crib because of some noise from another apartment, and the 5-0 comes in and throws her friend up against the wall, tells her friend to give me your ID. The friend gives it to her. The 5-0, the cops ask Cassie for her ID. She says, I ain't giving you nothing. And then her friend, Cassie's friend, is telling her, yo, tell the cops what Puff did to you. Tell them what. And she like, he didn't do nothing. No. Cassie didn't give them her ID and did not tell nothing on Puff. Puffy is texting her. All of this is, they're showing all these text messages in the court. Baby, please, like 7 times. They're gonna lock me up. They're gonna lock me up. Later on that day, after things cool down between Puffy and Cassie. Cassie goes by Puffy's crib, and her and Puffy go to her movie premiere together. They take pictures at the movie premiere, and there's no black eyes, there's no nothing, busted lip. When the paparazzi and the cameras and the media are taking pictures of them, she's perfectly fine. But the Southern District of New York put up pictures during the trial that showed her with a busted lip, with sunglasses on. Says, this is right after the Intercontinental Hotel. This, and she, you know what I'm saying? But, so, you know, that is the backstory to the Intercontinental Hotel video, as someone that was at the trial. And if you went to the trial, if I got some of the details wrong, please go down in the comments section and correct me. And let me ask you this. Go in the comment section and tell me, does that change the way you see that hotel, that elevator video, that 13-second clip? Is this what I'm telling you based on evidence in the court? Does that change how you view Puffy and Cassie in front of that elevator? Let me know in the comment section. Make sure you follow me on all my platforms. Instagram, The Podcast Was Sold. TikTok, The Podcast Was Sold. Spotify, The Podcast Was... Follow me on Spotify, man. If you got Spotify, follow me on Spotify so I could get 2,000 followers and I could start getting a check from them. Hurry up. Go do it now. I wanted to say something else about that incident. What did I want to say? Well, I'll leave it alone. Peace.